Good afternoon, everyone. Happy day 7 of testing. This is our April monthly call for assessment and accountability. A few reminders before we start. One, we have quite a few new people on the call, so if you haven't used Zoom before, please know that anything that is in the view of your webcam will be displaying for everyone on the call. So if you want to cover that up or disable it, now would be the time. Another thing is the presentation for today's call is in the assessment library under webinars, and it will have April next to it. And so if you'd like to pull that up as we walk through these, feel free to go ahead and download it. And then this is also being recorded in case you need to review it at another time or send it to any of your team who are unable to attend today's webinar. If you have questions, please feel free to type them in the chat, and I will get to those as they come through to each section. So go ahead and start typing those in, and we will get started. All right, so as you know, the month-by-month checklist provides dates for all of the tasks related to assessment and accountability by each month. And so I just want to highlight a few things for this month in April and then in May. For the month of April, a few things to note. Graduation cohort data is being finalized for data certification and exit code review. District level staff are supporting school test coordinators with the delivery of test security, preparation, and administration training for spring testing. Test setup procedures for grades 3 to 8 and high school are open, so school test coordinators can begin setting up test sessions, reviewing and verifying accommodations, printing test tickets, and all of those tasks related to testing. We also had the ACT Makeup Day earlier this month, and for the month of May, we have our ELPT and LEAP Connect scores that will be released, the last day of our computer-based and paper-based window for grades 3 to 8. May 10th is the last day for CLEP test scores to be included for SPS for the graduation cohort members. And then May 17th is the last day of our high school window. Also in May, you are preparing for the summer window, which begins June 17th. So for those summer testers that you'll have. The full version of this is of course located in the link here, but also know that all of these dates are provided in this deck, but also with more detail. And then all of our weekly newsletters have dates that are coming up too. So you're getting this in a few different places, but if you'd like to access the full version, that is linked here. Moving on to accountability. So ESSA requires that all students participate in ELA math and science assessments at least one time in a high school grade. Students who have not taken a high school level test by their 3rd year in high school are required to take Algebra 1 and English 1 or the LEAP Connect, and they will be loaded in eDirects for one or both of those courses. A roster of 3rd year assessment cohort students will be posted to the Secure FTP next week. Each year, school systems that exceed the 1% participation in the alternate assessment must take certain actions and meet certain criteria. As mentioned in the November and January webinars, the department's launching a new alternate assessment review process for school systems over 1% participation. The new expedited alternate assessment participation review process allows school systems to receive their participation data sooner. It'll allow the department to communicate participation review outcomes quicker, and the new process requires school systems to provide evidence teams followed the state guidelines for participation by completing IEP reviews and providing evidence that IEP teams have been sufficiently trained on the participation guidelines. School systems will continue to be required to address any disproportionality. The department will review participation information submitted by school systems along with IEP file reviews to determine and communicate, review outcomes, and apply results to school performance scores. The actions and estimated timeline for the alternate assessment participation review process are provided here. In June, you will be notified if you have exceeded the 1% participation in the alternate assessment during this school year, 2018-2019. You will also receive guidance and support with data review, student file review, and alternate assessment review submission processes. Then in July, school systems will review their data, student files, and submit their alternate assessment review along with supporting evidence. The department will review submissions and student files, and then in August, the department will notify school systems of the alternate assessment review outcome and will apply results to school performance scores. There will be additional details provided in the special education leader webinars this month and in May. The curriculum verification and results reporting portal roster verification process ensures that teachers are assigned to the right courses and classroom rosters for the purpose of the value-added data analysis. The data in CVR will be used to calculate the teacher's VAM score, even if the teacher and or the principal do not verify the rosters. VAM results account for 35% of the student growth component of the teacher's final evaluation. The following teachers are eligible to receive VAM results: teachers in grades 4 to 8 in ELA, math, and social studies, and teachers in Algebra 1, Geometry, English 1, and English 2. The roster verification period for VAM will be open for viewing purposes only on April 8th and run through the 18th. During this time, users can view and check the roster data for accuracy, but cannot make changes in CVR. The CVR help desk will be able to assist with any issues that a school system must correct in the source data systems. The official verification window will open May 6th through 17th, and this is the time for teachers and principals to check rosters for accuracy and make any changes if needed. Please make sure that these timelines are shared with principals and teachers. The Interest and Opportunities measure was intended to solve for the disproportionate access to rich enrichment experiences across Louisiana schools, and to do more to highlight the many schools truly that go above and beyond the core academic classes, exposing students to diverse areas of learning in which they can develop their skills and talents. Working with stakeholders and national experts over the last 2 years to develop this measure, we've understood the complexity involved in such a measure, and we are committed to getting it right. The measure needs to be ambitious but fair, simple but valid, and it needs to be implemented as soon as possible. There are a set of next steps in this work. The first one is the department will work with regional superintendent leaders to develop policy details that incorporate superintendent feedback, including a draft school-based opportunities menu. The second is, based on recommendations from the superintendent working group, the department will share a policy proposal for consideration by the Accountability Commission in May and the Superintendent's Advisory Council in June. Bessie will consider the policy at its June meeting. The third thing is the department will share the 2018-2019 course enrollment data with school systems to establish a baseline. Let's go ahead and jump into our birth to grade 3 assessments. Louisiana has a long history of accountability aligned to the academic focus on grades 3 to 12 and recently expanded accountability to our publicly funded early childhood programs. However, we currently lack measures to reflect the success of grades K to 2 specifically. LDOE is piloting a set of tools, as you all know, in our districts this school year that will define a cohesive set of expectations for teachers and school systems birth to 2nd grade and reflect those expectations in the way our schools are measured. The pilots are in grades K1 and 2, and they are a part of a broader effort to define those expectations from birth to 12. We have 4 tools this year that have been piloted, as many of you all are involved in one, if not all of them, and they are going to help us inform the development of the K-2 accountability measures. So we have class that's being piloted in kindergarten, a writing sample in 1st grade, a rubric for best practices in curriculum in 1st and 2nd grades, and then a 2nd grade math and ELA checkup. We are collecting data from these pilots, but also feedback from the field to inform the development of these measures and the viability of the tool as a statewide measurement. For our class that is being piloted in kindergarten, we still have the third-party class observations occurring in our pilot classrooms. The data from those observations will be entered by May 31st. Third-party observations for our sites piloting the best practices tool have been completed. However, your site may continue to use this tool during the rest of the school year or for planning for next school year. For our 1st grade writing tool, all student responses from the administration of the writing tool should have been collected and sample responses uploaded into the ULL portal. The development of the 2nd grade checkup will occur over multiple years and will consist of feedback from national experts, researchers, department staff, and Louisiana educators and students. We recently held an item bias and sensitivity review of the 2nd grade checkup test questions by a committee of educators. The department will not administer the tool as planned this spring, but rather will collect feedback during the planned window to receive input on the tool's content, administration, and reporting. This will be done through a survey to all participants in the 2nd grade checkup pilot. May 6th through May 17th is the administration window, and that window will be used for the administration of the survey. This survey will include sample test questions for teachers and students to interact with and questions on administration, reporting, and accountability. Feedback from all stakeholders is critical to ensure the development of a high quality, valid, and reliable checkup that's well aligned to our 2nd grade standards. Again, the survey will be administered to those who are piloting the 2nd grade checkup during the administration window, May 6th through 17th. Focus groups for the class best practices and writing tools are occurring this month. All administrators and teachers in the pilots were invited to participate via an interest survey. From those interested, we selected participants for each of these groups. The data from the pilot tools, in addition to the feedback we get from focus groups, will help prepare an overall report for the summary of how the pilots were implemented this year, and then also help with making decisions for the future years. A quick reminder about the writing pilot. So each test coordinator received a prepaid box to return the materials listed here. These are due April 30th. You will also get more information in the middle of this month to remind you about the return of these materials. So please connect with your pilot coordinator for the writing sample to ensure that this is completed by the 30th. Before we jump into KEA and K-3, I do have a question that just came in. So the question is to confirm that the survey is being given to everyone. So that is correct. Instead of just giving students the second grade checkup this year, we are giving this also to teachers and any district level administrators of those sites piloting the test. So you will receive an email with a link to a survey. If you are a teacher in the pilot, a principal in the pilot, or a district coordinator in the pilot, and you will respond to different types of questions. One of the sections will be on the items that the students would have taken in the system if they were going to take it just by themselves. We are now expanding this collection of feedback to include all personnel involved. So when a teacher logs in to this survey, they will have items, test items that they will give feedback on, along with getting student feedback on those questions. So it will be an interactive experience for teachers and students in the classrooms as the test items come on the screen. So this was an effort to get more feedback about the items on this test to a broader group of people. So we have expanded it to include personnel that are at the sites that are piloting it or at the district offices that are piloting this. The next few slides are reminders about the kindergarten entry assessment and K-3 literacy screening guidance for next school year, 2019-2020. Each year, public schools must administer the KEA and a K-3 literacy screener within the first 30 days of school. The KEA is given to first-time kindergarten students, and there are two options, DRDP and TS Gold. These were the same options we had this school year. For the K-3 literacy screener, there are 4 options. We have Dibbles Next, Steep, and Step, which were options this year, but we have added Dibbles ACE. So there are 4 options this school year, and this is administered to kindergarten, first, second, and third grade students. The data for these 2 assessments will be submitted just like this year with the SIS October 1 MFP collection. There will be a session at the Teacher Leader Summit this summer on Dibbles ACE. There will also be 2 80-minute sessions on the kindergarten entry assessment at the summit as well, but you must register to attend. The guidance listed here is just a snapshot of the type of assessments that the school systems can choose for KEA and K-3, but it also gives you the skills that are measured and then links to resources. Our 2019-2020 pre-K to 3 screening guidance will be posted in the next week. So again, all of the information is located on these slides, but we do have a one-pager that we'll release with the same information along with links to help support whatever assessment you choose. Again, the only change from last year is that we've added Dibbles ACE for the K-3 literacy assessment. All right, we have a question about training for the second grade checkup. So for this school year, this will be done in a survey. So there will not be a testing platform in which students are taking the test. This will be a survey where adults are going in to complete questions, but then there will also be a section where teachers will interact with students with test items on a screen or on a computer or on an iPad or however they choose to administer the survey. Students will not be in a testing environment where they need to log into a platform to complete a test. So we have decided to expand the feedback this year by having teachers and district personnel and school leaders involved in this process. Depending on the feedback we receive this year, any districts that pilot this or if this is operational in future years, we would provide the same types of training we do for all of our other assessments for any of the K-2 accountability measures. All right, so for technology readiness, I believe all of these slides are just reminders, but I just want to quickly go through them so that you all hear them very briefly. This slide just indicates our assessment technology specifications for next school year. Again, any devices used this year will be able to use next school year. As you all know, we are transitioning to a new updated testing site manager called the Central Office TSM. The Central Office TSM is a powerful integrated software that allows users to easily install and manage their online testing environment from a central location. Several trainings have been delivered since the fall regarding this transition, including a statewide roadshow over the past couple of weeks with your tech directors and any assessment staff. There is an updated technology user guide that lists instructions for how to install this, and it is located in eDirect. If you'd like to access the trainings that started since last fall, you can access them here. They're also in our assessment library. We will do another training face-to-face at LeCue this summer in Baton Rouge. This session will just be a continuation of what has been delivered since the fall. So questions and discussion about making sure that the transition to Central Office TSM is seamless and completed before the beginning of the next school year. On May 1st, the downloads will be available in eDirect to begin transitioning to the Central Office Testing Site Manager. It is crucial that you as an assessment team and your technology teams are in constant communication about the transition to this upgraded system. The last day that the old or the current TSM will be in place is at the end of June. So this will need to be completed before the beginning of next school year. And all of our assessments next school year will be administered using the new updated Central Office Testing Site Manager. All right, these test security slides are the same as the technology in the sense that they are mostly just reminders. So again, if you are preparing for your high school spring assessments, these are the slides just to kind of gut check what responsibilities exist for test security. So training, monitoring, supervising schools in your district, making sure paperwork that needs to be completed is done. And then in the event you need to do any testing irregularities or investigations, that information is listed here. If a test needs to be voided by you as the district test coordinator because of an incident such as cheating, there are steps that need to happen to make sure that this process is done properly. The first step is that the test administrator will give the school test coordinator documentation of the incident and any other things that would be helpful for that documentation. So if it's a paper-based test, it would include litho codes, the test session, the times, all of those things to make sure they're reflected in that document. Then the school test coordinator will meet with the principal, the test administrator that submitted the documentation, and anyone else that needs to be included, and they will determine whether the test should be voided. They will then notify you as the district test coordinator, and you all will complete the void process by submitting the verification form, and you will invalidate tests in the system. So any testing irregularity that results in a void is voided in eDirect by you as the DTC, and you will go to test management, manage test sessions, testing status, and then invalidate. And the invalidate button is where this arrow is pointing. Once you select that, you are voiding the test. Keep in mind that the student status dashboard is available for you to help monitor where all your schools are as far as progress monitoring their completion of tests. And then there are tons of testing statistic reports available as well within eDirect. For LEAP 2025, we are recruiting a variety of assessment development educator review committee members for LEAP 2025 and LEAP Connect. They will meet May through August, and the members of these committees may review newly developed test items, provide guidance on scoring student responses to the constructed response and extended response items, or help determine cut scores for our new LEAP 2025 science test. Educator input in these committees is essential to the development process because it ensures that our tests are fair, valid, and reliable metrics of student growth and achievement. Participants can see the built-in mechanisms which ensure the development of the high-quality assessments and ensure that tests are aligned to the standards appropriate for the greater course and appropriate for our Louisiana kids. Additionally, the educators that do this work will learn how to better use assessments in their classrooms or school systems. And so we're looking for educators from across the state who represent the diverse demographics and needs of all of our students, including the needs of small populations such as English learners and visually impaired students. You can access the link here to get an overview of the committees. It's also available in the Assessment Guidance Library. And if you have any questions, you can contact Michelle. The LEAP 2025 science assessment guides that are in the Assessment Guidance Library have been updated to include information about how students perform on the new science assessments will be reported. The new reporting categories support the multidimensionality and depth of the Louisiana Student Standards for Science. Those categories and general descriptions are provided below, but for more specific information, you would want to access each grade level's specific science assessment guide. All right, we have a couple questions that I want to get to before we move on. We have a question about the types of reports offered in eDirect. There is a report that will let you see any unlocks that have happened for tests, so you can run that report. There's also the student status dashboard that will let you see the number of students that are completed or in progress or haven't started those assessments. So there's a couple different ways you can find it. Some are just reports where you download, but the student status dashboard is interactive. So you can click on the graphs and show different student counts and kind of modify for what you would like to see in the system. Your school test coordinators can do this too, but it's just for their school. You'll be able to do this for your whole district to be able to pinpoint every school where they are and how they're doing. But the list of reports on the previous slide just gives you an idea of what things you'll be able to access. So yes, how many kids were completed, if kids had tests that were unlocked, how many kids are left, which schools are completed. So I would definitely play around in there to see what best meets your needs. And if you need help, just let us know. But it's definitely a lot of information that you can pull from. So feel free to play around with it and then get back with us. All right, so for testing homebound students, again, this is just a reminder, the 4 options listed here are the same options that have been used in the past to test students who are homebound. The security procedures are very similar to if the student was testing at school. The only difference is there is a test administrator who is most likely the homebound teacher that will go to that student's home to assess the student. So they'll still do the same processes at the school level as far as checking out materials and things like that, and making sure the environment the student tests in is appropriate for testing. So again, if you whatever you did last year, you can do this again. If you have questions about students that are homebound, please reach out so we can help you figure out the best way to make this happen for those kids. Students with a calculator accommodation, as you know, we'll have the calculator selected within eDirect, but this year we released the online calculator that can be used in the non-calculator section. So you'll notice now when you are verifying accommodations that there are two types of calculator. There is an online calculator and a response calculator. The online calculator accommodation is the calculator provided online in the test. The response calculator is the calculator provided handheld to the student. So either one of those would need to be selected. They can still have their handheld calculators that they've used before, or they can use the online calculator that is provided in the platform, and it will display in the non-calculator section when that student logs in. For our grades 3 to 8 spring assessments, these next two slides go over key dates for those. We are in the middle, or not even in the middle yet, but we are in the beginning of testing, and your paper-based materials for grades 3 and 4 arrived yesterday. If you have not done so yet, please make sure you are verifying all of the materials. And if you need to order any additional materials, do so as quickly as possible to make sure that you are ready come day one for the paper-based test. Again, these slides are just reminders, so if you feel very familiar with these, you should. We just wanted to make sure that you all heard some of these things one more time before the window closes. So again, the manuals are posted in eDirect. You all also received copies of these that were shipped to you. We also want to remind you that student accommodations must be verified and added prior to putting students in a test session. So if they're added after, it will not carry that accommodation to that student because they were already put in there without one. So you'll need to remove the student, add the accommodation, and then add them back if your school test coordinators didn't verify this prior to. For grades 3 to 4 that are doing paper-based testing, each content area has an accommodated version that was shipped to you, and it is identified on the cover as the accommodated version. So students that have any type of read aloud or transferred answers will need the accommodated booklet. And then students who have a sign language interpreter with the CAS or that have Braille will have the accommodated version kitted with those materials. Those schools selected to participate in the social studies field test have access to the test setup process to include that fourth session. Again, the test session file layout is also in there, and there's directions on how to add the fourth session in social studies. We have a question about materials that have already been delivered. So if you have received your materials and you are missing things, I would first reach out to DRC to make sure that there are not more boxes on the way for whatever reason with the shipping company or anything like that before you order a bunch. So let me give you their email and phone number right now. In the event you need to double check with DRC on your materials, their phone number is 1-888-718-4836. That's 1-888-718-4836. And their email is lahelpdesk@datarecognitioncorps.com. All right, the next slide highlights the key dates for high school. So our high school window begins Monday. Right now, you can order additional materials for high school. And remember, those materials are your communication assistant scripts, which are for your sign language interpreters, and then Braille. So other than that, there are no other materials to order for high school. If you need to request a test score from last school year for English 1 or U.S. History 5 level assessments, please submit the test score request form in the assessment library and email it to assessment@la.gov, and we're happy to send you those results once we receive that form. Again, reminders that have been in our webinars in the past months about high school. You all have the manuals. They're located in eDirect. Any administrative errors that occur will be at the cost of the school system. It is $350 per test so that the student can retake their high school test. So if there is an administrative error, meaning the test administrator makes a mistake, whether it's not reading the manual correctly, allowing more time than there should be, not providing an accommodation that they're supposed to, that student will not be penalized. They will receive another test so that they can take it again. However, the school system will be charged $350. We'll also have to have a testing irregularity form submitted, and then we will notify you when the new test is available for that student to take. So we do this for our high school assessments because it is high stakes for them, because it is graduation, it's a graduation requirement. So this is different than our 3 to 8. We do this for our high school. So please make sure that teachers are reading the manuals and they are monitoring and providing accommodations and timing as they should, and everything should be fine. Reports for our EOC tests, English 3 and biology, will become available 4 days after a student completes all of the sessions and exits the test properly. Graduating students must be accurately identified as a 12th grader in SIS and in eDirect so that their scores can be prioritized. So we received feedback from you all last year about prioritizing senior scores so that they know if they're going to walk at graduation. Not only should you continue to do what you've done in the past years by assessing those students first, but we are also prioritizing their scores. So please make sure that if you have a graduating senior, they are listed as a 12th grader in SIS and in eDirect in order for their scores to be prioritized. Reports for the other high school assessments for kids that are not seniors, except for our biology 5 level, those will be available during the testing window. So you'll still get those during the window, however, we're prioritizing seniors. If you're requesting a transfer of more than one student, you will need to complete the student transfer form in eDirect and then send it to DRC customer support. And then you will receive an update within 24 hours, but a lot earlier than that. DRC has been turning these around very quickly. So if you do need this to happen, you'll complete that form and send it to them. The graduating seniors that I just mentioned will need to have the senior form attached to them. You can have students in one room that are seniors and non-seniors, that is fine. But we want to make sure that seniors are not only identified in SIS and in eDirect as grade 12, but they receive the senior priority. So please make sure that your school test coordinators select this when creating test sessions. Students that need to take the biology assessment should be placed in the following assessment based on the information below. And you are getting reports of these each week, just like we are sending updates on accommodations to make sure that your school test coordinators are checking to ensure they're in the correct test. The next couple of slides are just some of the scheduling requirements that are listed in our manuals and in the online scheduling guidance documents. So please make sure school test coordinators are following these requirements to avoid testing irregularities. These are some more reminders to help your test coordinators position themselves so that students do the best on their assessment. And again, this guidance is listed in our online scheduling guidance as well. The additional materials order form for school test coordinators is available in eDirect. So again, this was something we implemented last year based on your feedback so that you could give a standard form to your school test coordinators when they needed to order materials. And so that document is in eDirect. They can use this, you can choose to not use this, but if they do use it, they should return it to you, and then you all would order from your account the materials that are needed. Keep in mind, if you have graduating seniors, so they're a 12th grader in eDirect, 12th grader in SIS, they are graduating in a few weeks, you will need to make sure that you are selecting the materials for those kids accordingly. Our technical assistance protocol is the same. Again, if you have questions that are related to the platform, related to eDirect, related to materials, call DRC, or you can email them. If you have questions about general testing things, or you have an issue that you would like to get some support with or feedback on related to testing, you should contact LDOE. So again, our email, always feel free to email that. If you have urgent emergency questions, you should call the hotline, which is listed on the screen here. Things that are not urgent, please send them through the assessment@la.gov email. They'll be answered in a couple of hours anyway, but we really want to reserve our hotline number for the most urgent, in-the-moment things that need to be handled. For ACT and work keys, there are a few key dates. April 11th is the last day to enter accountability codes for any students who scheduled to take the ACT but did not. The state-used questions are found on the student information page in PA Next. Also, the last day to return materials for ACT and or work keys to ACT. And so FedEx will make the pickup at the district office. And then April 12th is the last day to administer work keys. This is a list of all the reports ACT makes available to students, schools, and districts. The description of the ACT score report document linked here explains what each report includes and when it will be available. So the next few slides just provide detail about each of the reports. So you'll see here, these are the reports that are available for students. Score labels and high school report checklists will be sent to the ACT high school report, or sent with the ACT high school report. The checklists are not cumulative, so you may receive more than one shipment, so the checklist will only reflect what is in that shipment. And then about 1 week after students receive their score reports in the mail, those reports can be accessed through their ACT student account. Then we have reports that are given to schools. So you have your checklist, your reports, and then student score labels. These reports are student level reports, and they are to be placed in their permanent records. High school reports are mailed to students to the address that's provided on the non-test portion of the answer document. If a student doesn't receive a report, they can access their report through their ACT student account, or the school can make a copy of the report that they get from ACT. Schools should follow district rules about how score labels are to be placed in the Keene folders. Then we also have a few more reports or documents that are given to schools. The profile reports for high schools include records of students who tested with the non-college reportable accommodations or support. The student level data file needs to be downloaded each school and kept for further use. ACT will remove these and all other reports from the 18-19 school year from PA Next when it goes live for next school year. So you want to make sure your STCs get access to that. Scores will be provided to the colleges that the student selected when completing their non-test information about 3 to 8 weeks after ACT gets the answer documents for scoring. And then we have reports for districts. We have a district profile report, the high school profile report for the district, and then a high school student level data file. All these reports for the districts are downloaded and kept for further use. and ACT will remove these as they go into next school year. So please make sure you get access to this. We have some updates for the My WorkKey student accounts and certificates. So LDOE has never had access to the information located on these due to PII laws. And so we do not provide certificates to districts because we do not have these. As you know, ACT will no longer print and ship the certificates to schools. Students must access their My WorkKeys accounts to print their own certificate and provide a copy to the school if the school needs one. This information is important for schools and students to understand how accounts are created and the certificates are accessed. ACT will only release this information to students, not schools. If the student provided an email address when they enter their information into Validas, ACT will send an email with the link to the account and user information so that students can access their certificate if one was earned. If there was not an email address provided, the student needs to call 800 WorkKey to get their user information. If there are, ACT will not release information to schools if they call because they are protecting the privacy of student information. So keep that in mind. So if a student needs access to their results, they will need to go into their account to do so. The ACT state testing site provides all the documents that are linked here for schools to access and assist them when setting up accounts and helping kids access their accounts. It's also on the ACT state testing site, and this has been available all years for your schools to access. If the match criteria is used by every school across the state for every student, then all scores will link to each student no matter where they tested. It's very beneficial for students who change schools and need their account information. And again, all the resources for ACT and WorkKeys can be found using these links. And again, if you have other questions or need support, you can contact ACT located at the phone numbers and email addresses below. All right, I have a couple questions that have come through. So if you have not received the materials that you expected, I would highly encourage you to call DRC before the end of the day today to make sure that everything either was sent to you or there's something on the way or something needs to be delivered to you. So I would not wait. I would call them today to make sure that they have everything. And I would encourage your school test coordinators when they go through and check everything to do it immediately as well so that you all are weeks ahead of getting this ready for the paper-based test. So if you didn't receive accommodated books, labels, shipping return labels, whatever you need to contact DRC as soon as possible. The question about ordering accommodated materials. So the additional materials form and additional materials tab is for ordering extra materials, whether it's regular materials, accommodated materials, or ancillary materials like labels or manuals or things like that. Again, if you need something that is not on there for whatever reason, you can email us or email DRC and they're happy to help. We have another question about accountability coding. So remember that will all happen at the end of the window, whether it's paper-based or computer-based. Wait till the very end to accountability code students. All right, so for AP and CLEP, couple reminders. AP has their window opening May 6th. It will end on May 17th. Please be advised that the final deadline to order is April 19th for advanced placement. There's a full schedule of all the exams linked here, but the first ones, the government and politics, Chinese language and culture, and environmental science will be the first ones. But if you would like the rest of the list, please access the link here. There is also an AP coordinators page on the AP website that has information for administration, preparation, and resources to help teachers and students prepare for this assessment. CLEP exams are online digital assessments that can be taken by students at any point in their high school career. However, all exams for graduates in the class of 2019 must be administered by May 10th, 2019. And there are some links here to help you with CLEP information. And if you have any other questions, please reach out to collegereadiness@la.gov. All right, Connect and Law 1. So as you know, next month, LEAP Connect and Law 1 results will be released. So I just repeated the slides in here so that you know how to access reports, or if you'd like to send these to your school test coordinators, feel free to do that as well. So these are slides that are repeating. They are giving you information on how to access the reports when they are released next month. The directions for these are also in the eDirect user guide. The parent guide is available in our Family Support Toolbox site and in the assessment library. This parent guide to the report should be given along with the results to parents. As I mentioned earlier, we are recruiting for educator review committees, and that also includes LEAP Connect. So if you have teachers that would be excellent as members of this committee, please reach out to Alice and send her their information, and we'll reach out to you. All right, for ELPS and ELPT. So ELPT, similar to LEAP Connect and Law 1, will have results released next month, and they will be posted in ORS, which is the online reporting system through the ELPT portal. There is a separate user guide just for the reporting system. So if you want to go ahead and access that now to get familiar with it, especially if you have new school test coordinators, you can go ahead and access that. Their login to this system is the same as their login to TIDE. So they will have to log in again to get those reports. And then again, these next slides are just repeated. They're also in the manual, but it lets you know the types of reports that exist and how to access those reports. And the parent guide for ELPT reports is also available in our Family Support Toolbox and the assessment library. Again, this should go home with the results to parents. And as a reminder, as you know, next school year, the English Language Proficiency Screener will be the required standardized entrance screener for the state of Louisiana. This school year, we had a transition year where districts at any time could begin using the new screener, but they could still use the screener that they had in place. Next school year, this will be the only option to use as our standardized entrance screener as a part of ESSA. It is still in the same portal platform as ELPT. If you do want to get ahead of the game, you can start thinking about assessing your potential kindergarten English learners. So if you want to think about reducing the amount of time you may need for next school year, you can start using the screener to identify potential kindergarten English learners. The links here are all related to the screener. So again, we have a separate user guide, a separate manual. We have frequently asked questions and guidance documents and trainings, and this is specific to the screener. Now, a lot of it will feel very familiar because you've already used this system for ELPT, but the actual meat and potatoes of how the screener is administered would be found in these documents. And so your school test coordinator should be trained. Anyone that you are identifying as an administrator at different sites or at the district level should be trained too. So I know most of you all did this starting probably last March when we started rolling this out. But if you haven't started yet, now's the time to get on board. And, you know, we're happy to help if you want to talk through any of your plans for implementing this in your district. But I know a lot of you have already started it this year, and it's been a pretty seamless transition. So again, if you need help or have questions, just let us know. The school system planning calls remaining for this school year are May 8th and June 5th. And then, as you know, we have our Teacher Leaders Summit coming up. And the registration is available till June 14th. The session list and the app will be available in the next couple of weeks, so be on the lookout for that. If you are a new district test coordinator, backup district test coordinator, accountability contact, backup accountability contact, or have a new secure mailing address, you must complete the contact update form and send this from the superintendent's email to assessment@la.gov so that we can transition all the accounts to the proper people and make sure your materials arrive at the correct location. Our assessments customer service page is linked here if you'd like a one-pager with all of our assessments and their customer service information. And then we have 3 monthly calls left that are listed here. Also keep in mind, beginning in June, we will not have office hours every Tuesday. We will only have a June and July monthly call. And then when August rolls around, we'll start back up with our weekly office hours calls. As always, please be on the lookout for your weekly newsletters. And if you have questions, email assessment@la.gov. If you have urgent issues, you can call our hotline. We are happy to help. And then just some quick next steps and dates that are important are listed here. I did have one other question come in, but if you have questions, please go ahead and send them now as we are at the end of the presentation. We have a question asking about the districts who are piloting the writing sample and receiving the prepaid boxes. So again, you will receive an email probably in the next week with the information on how to make sure that those materials are sent back to you. So be on the lookout for that email. It will actually go to the pilot contact person at your district. So some of you as the district test coordinators are not the pilot contact. So the pilot contact in your district will receive that information. And they are responsible for making sure all these things are shipped back accordingly. So I would reach out to them to make sure that you're in the loop and can support them in any way. So again, the majority of these slides are not new. So there was not too much new information other than a couple of updates with high school testing, and then with our second grade checkup survey that's happening, and just some reminders. So I hope that you all are feeling good about testing, and you've got about a month left to go. What we're hearing from you all has been really great feedback this year. I think a lot of you all are getting the hang of things, and it just feels pretty normal now. And a lot of the kinks that you all worked out with your districts in the previous years have been beneficial. So sounds like you all are rocking and rolling and have everything down pat. But again, if you need anything, just let us know. A copy of this presentation is in our assessment library under webinars, and it's also recorded. So we will post this to the YouTube account. Usually takes a few days to post. So if you'd like to send the link to some people who weren't able to attend, that'll be available soon. But you all have a great day, and I will talk to you next week for office hours.